You're listening to the Youth Critic Podcast on KHZ Network. Find us on Facebook at DecibelUNG Radio and find us on Twitter at DecibelUNG. If you like this episode, please leave a like and comment on our iTunes page at KHZ Network. And now for the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Youth Critic Podcast. I'm your host, Kel Smith. Joining me this week is Alex Galucki.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we are going to be talking about Venom.
Whoa.
Yes.
Right now.
That's my edgelord voice.
Nice.
So yes, we are talking about the long-awaited, long in development Venom movie that's had multiple directors attached, and then finally they got everything together 18 months ago to make this movie right after Spider-Man: Homecoming, and this is the result of it. So, Alex, what did you think of Venom?
Well, I will be honest, I'm pretty far from liking it. In fact, I would probably say it's just not a very good movie. I will say this, though. I was never bored with it. I was entertained whether I was laughing with the movie or at it. So, I have that going for it. And I think Tom Hardy gives a good performance, as he always does, but I don't think he was quite enough to save the movie for me. And you loved it, right?
No. No. I'll say this. Last month we got The Predator, which was a movie that a lot of people hated, that was highly anticipated, and failed to meet a lot of expectations. It was, torn around a lot. I found that more enjoyable than Venom.
Okay.
So, if that gives you an idea. Because the problem with Venom to me is it's not a good movie, but it's not a good movie because nothing really tracks. Like, it's deceptively competent, but nothing really tracks from character to plot. And by the end of the movie, all the rules or any kind of rules that were established on the symbiote is basically thrown out. So from a story and narrative perspective, it kind of just goes all over the place.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The other thing I was going to bring up as well is that this movie gave me Suicide Squad vibes in terms of how disorienting the editing is. Like, there's a scene early on where Eddie Brock is at a grocery store at night, and then it cuts to another scene, and then it cuts back to the same grocery shop, but it's it's meant to be a different day entirely, but we weren't told that. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, this is happening now? And it's like, I didn't quite realize we were at the final climactic battle because so little had happened before that I was just thrown off that this is the end. You know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the problem with this movie is it takes like an hour to get going, or it felt like an hour. It might have been just 30, 40 minutes, but still, it felt forever to finally get to Eddie getting infected with the symbiote or Venom. So you're just sitting around waiting for stuff that really doesn't matter, or you really don't care about because it's not very well developed. Like the whole relationship between Eddie and his girlfriend is kind of just done in two scenes. Like, it's never, and then like a scene late, and then like two scenes later they break up.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, and then the whole setup of what happens with Eddie Brock getting kind of, shit canned by Drake, essentially, it's you kind of just the way it plays out. It's supposed to make you feel sympathetic towards Brock because he's like the guy, the ruckmucker. What he's like he like flips tables and he's like the disruptor of corporations, and the whole way he goes about the whole Carlton Drake situation is so unprofessional and so how did you not expect to get fired?
Yeah, I know it. And the other thing as well is that what I want to bring up is this is my problem with Venom and my problem with like some recent villain-centered, and I put villain in massive quotation marks, villain-centered films that have come out recently, like whether it's Suicide Squad or Maleficent, is that they can't quite commit to the whole idea of the protagonist being the villain. Like the second you have Venom say, Venom of all people say something like, I can't let you destroy the world or whatever, and it's like any decent writer writing that scene would probably think, I think we've gone too far. Like there's just nothing here that worked with Venom working as a sinister sort of villain. And the other thing is that I don't buy that the Venom symbiote is able to change that perspective because Brock has done nothing to change the symbiote's perspective on the world. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you can argue that it's an arc that the only person that has an arc is the symbiote. But even by arc standards, it's not earned at all because when does Venom ever appreciate any human life? He 15 minutes before his realization, he basically threw a bunch of SWAT team members all over the place like they were ragdolls.
Yeah.
And now he values human life 15 minutes later.
And there's also, this is how it's so tonally weird as well. Is I never quite knew how to feel throughout the movie. And there's a scene where Venom is trying to give Eddie Brock dating advice. This is a weird movie.
It is. It's a weird movie because it is trying so hard to be like a dark comedy, but it also, like the way Venom Eddie gets infected with the symbiote, it's like a straight of a horror movie. Like it's like tonally and shot like a horror movie. But then the movie kind of just becomes a comedy every time Venom shows up because Venom is cracking jokes and giving dating advice and asking Eddie if we could eat somebody.
That's such a weird film. But like I said, I was never bored throughout it. I was, in a way, I was more fascinated with the mismanagement of the entire film, whether it's just through the tone or just the straight up characterization of Venom himself. Like, to me, I don't think this would be enough to make diehard Venom fans just pleased with this. At least I don't think so. It's kind of similar to,
right.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's kind of similar to how Deadpool, like all the Deadpool film had to do was just please fans over the largely negative reception towards the character in X-Men Origins Wolverine by just making him very comic book accurate in his film. Here, I don't think there's not going to be that many fans defending it. I mean, I know that lots of people love this movie already, and I think that's cool. Like the theater that I was in, everyone was just laughing at all the jokes and all that. But I don't know. I just don't see what's here to get invested in. Like I don't have much. I'm not really compelled to just go back and watch this movie anytime soon, or ever for that matter.
Yeah, I think. Well, you have the problem with the Venom fans in that the Venom fans asked for an R-rated movie, and you even when you initially came out and said that you were making the movie, you said it was going to be R-rated, and now that we have this PG-13 bloodless cut of the movie where someone does get their head bitten off, but it's like it's like framed in a way to where you don't see anything.
Yeah.
Like it's very much like they cropped it as such to where you don't see the guy's head getting bitten off. And so now that you've kind of broken that promise and you made a cartoonish movie, you made a movie that's too dark for children because the Venom character alone would probably scare a bunch of children. But then again, I don't know what children are afraid of nowadays. So,
Can I just say something real quick? This is a fun little story. I've told this a few times before. But when I was a kid, I was deathly afraid of Venom. Venom was like biggest childhood fear ever. Like it got to a point where I would like actually turn away from the intro of the '90s animated series because that's when Venom would pop up. And I could never watch episodes that featured him or anything like that, or read comics. I mean, once Spider-Man 3 was announced that Venom would be the villain in there, I'm like, by that point, I was like, ooh, can I handle a live action Venom? Because I've already gotten over my fear of comic book and cartoon Venom. Can I handle live action Venom? Turns out I didn't really have to because he's not in the movie that much.
And he's played by Topher Grace.
Yeah, I got Goofy Venom. You can't be afraid of him. Come on. But yeah, I don't know how kids feel about Venom these days, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and so with that said, I think I don't know who said this specifically, but one site made the point you made a movie that's too silly for adults but too dark for children, and now so really I don't know what the movie is for, or I don't know who the movie is for.
Yeah.
Like, because the hard edge Venom fans in the 90s are going to be like, this is not, this is too clean. And then people who actually like Venom because it was a tragic character are going to be like, this is like a botched version of the of the Eddie Brock story. And it really is. I mean, the story of Eddie Brock is actually one of the more tragic stories in comic book lore. Do you know the story?
Oh yeah, I'm fairly familiar with the story. Like I have a massive I'm not ashamed to admit this. I have a massive collection of Spider-Man comic books. I have a near complete collection of the original series, Amazing Spider-Man. So I'm very familiar with the character of Venom, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Venom, apart from its first appearance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for those who don't know, the character of Venom, or the character of Eddie Brock, was a character who was pretty much like had a really good life. He was a well liked reporter, or a well respected reporter at the Daily Bugle or some paper in New York, and
I think it was the Daily Globe, which they alluded in the Venom movie.
Okay. And he was like reporting on a story about like some mobsters or something, and then what happened was Spider-Man kind of cracked it or debunked it, unintentionally debunked it, and that kind of that kind of ruined Eddie Brock's career. It ended an engagement that he had with the love of his life, and then he got cancer, and then in his like grieving, at the bottom of the pit of all moments you could have, he's watching Peter Parker rip the symbiote off, and that's how he becomes Venom. Is that the symbiote leaks onto him, and it instantly like cures his cancer. It basically becomes like his come to Jesus moment. The what he was asking for in the prayer. So and that's why he goes after Spider-Man. And this could have easily worked. He could have easily have wanted revenge. You could have easily made this work to where it's a tragic backstory. You could show Tom Hardy, hitting, rock bottom, and then have that Tom Hardy play a tragic figure. But no, we have to have a comedy, and we have to have Tom Hardy dressed like Tom Hardy and play Tom Hardy.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong there. And how do you feel about the possibility of trying to get Tom Hardy's Venom into the MCU in some capacity, like or ideally just have Venom interact with Spider-Man. Would
It
that be
could
something you'd
work. Here's the reason why I say it could work. Is because I trust the MCU to, if they ever needed Venom in the Spider-Verse at all, because really that's what it's going to be. You're never going to see Venom interacting with Thor. You're never going to see that. That's never going to happen. Or Star-Lord or Doctor Strange. That's never going to happen. What you will probably see more likely is Tom Holland's Spider-Man interacting with Tom Hardy at some point, and I think that could work because Kevin Feige has shown, has proven record of showing, like, crossing breeds with, the Hulk and Thor Ragnarok, or like the Avengers, like crossbreeding all these people from different, tonally different movies, and putting them in a situation where it could possibly work. So Tom Hardy's Venom, the way it currently is, could work. It could work in the MCU. Like, I would even argue that what's in the Fox universe right now could easily work in the MCU. But that won't happen. So, but I think it could work, and I would actually be interested because, I mean, Tom Hardy is an exceptional actor. He's an Academy Award nominated actor. Like, there's no reason he can't be in the MCU. My only fear is that Sony made a big mistake of not experimenting with the R rating and making an R rating Venom. And because you could have had that Venom be R rated and then put him in the MCU where Spider-Man basically tells Venom throughout a whole movie, hey dude, calm down, chill. You don't have to bite everyone's head off.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. That's my spill.
Sure. I am going to disagree. I have a counter argument with that. I don't think there's any point in having Venom interact with Spider-Man, because the whole point of Venom, his entire existence, his appearance, everything there is to him is all down to Spider-Man. Even his powers are Spider-Man related. So having Venom introduced without having Spider-Man, I don't really see how much of an emotional connection you can have between the two characters, if any. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I see it both ways. I mean, I can see it both ways, but I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of Sony will eventually have somehow, some way, Tom Holland and Tom Hardy's characters interacting.
Sure.
And I agree, like, what they currently have right now, and honestly, from what I understand of Kevin Feige, is that he's trying to use a bunch of villains that have not been in the movies yet. That's why we had Vulture, and then that's why the second one we're going to get Mysterio. So I don't think Marvel needs Venom. I think Venom needs Marvel.
Sure. It's such a weird arrangement because the way I sort of see it is Spider-Man can interact with the MCU. Spider-Man can interact with Venom. The Venom can't interact with the MCU. It's such a weird, confusing predicament that we have.
I mean, to be fair, Venom is in the same city where Ant-Man and the Wasp is.
That's true.
If we are going by MCU logic.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, but I mean, they could easily like point out like, oh, like you can go in they could go in like a newspaper room and say, here's Giant Man, picking up this 6 foot man, 6 foot Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
They could have that eventually, but I mean, the movie does a good enough job just focusing I say that's the only thing the movie's good at. It's just focusing on the Venom and the world building. Don't show too much of what's happening in the world. And honestly, Marvel doesn't have to even include. They don't even have to hint or talk about Venom at all in any
Yeah.
given movie. I mean, currently the next Spider-Man movie is in London, so it's set in London. So it's far away. So the next Spider-Man movie will be far enough away to where where even this incarnation of Peter Parker won't be in the same country as the same events as Venom are happening.
That's true. And am I the one who finds it really weird that Michelle Williams says that Venom's weaknesses are basically his kryptonite? And so if this movie is connected to the MCU, even tangentially, does that mean that DC Comics exist within the MCU? Like, I don't know how to feel about that.
Hey, I mean, the X-Men comics existed in Logan, so
That's true.
So, hey, I don't know. I don't think anyone thought anything through. Because if that was the case, I don't think they would have made that work. But who knows? I don't think they would have put that in because that would have raised way too many questions.
No, it's not like the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film where Aunt May's like, "You're not Superman, you know." Like, you can't get away with that these days.
Yeah, you can't, Sony, because there's just too much going on. There's too much awareness of what's going on with superheroes to throw a casual reference.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so let's go into spoilers.
All right, sure.
Because I have to talk about the third act because that's where the majority of my problems are.
Mm-hmm.
So, to clear everyone in, the third act begins with Venom and Eddie Brock being separated by, an MRI machine or the sound reverberations from the MRI machine. And because Eddie Brock realizes that Venom inside him is causing a heart murmur or something, or a heart tumor or something, whatever. So they get separated, and then the moment that happens, Carlton Drake's goons get him up, and then we learn Carlton Drake has the Riot symbiote. I hope that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And thus this kicks off the third act, where all the rules, everything that we've known about these symbiotes go out of the door very quickly, and then there's a big CGI battle with two goos that look very similar to one another. So it's hard to know who's fighting who. And it's incomprehensible because it's all tight angles.
That's. Can I talk about Riot real quick? Like the bit where Riot reveals himself to Venom, where he's like, "I have a symbiote." It's treated like a reveal to us as a guardians as well, but we saw him get possessed by the symbiote 2 scenes earlier. So I don't get what the deal with that is. Is it whether it's an edit problem or if it's a reshoot thing, or I don't know what. That's weird.
It was probably just a setup to the joke, which is he's got one up his ass too.
Oh yeah.
Which whatever.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha ha.
And of all the symbiotes used, why Riot? Because he's too similar of a color to Venom. It's just I mean, it'd be one thing if they did Carnage, but I know they don't want to use Carnage straight away. Because I'm sure fans would have been happy to see Carnage. Because
well, that was Carnage, the natural way to go.
Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know. Riot sucks.
Well, is there any other symbiote that matters other than Carnage and Venom?
Well, to be fair, the symbiotes all kind of suck. But
oh, dang it!
I mean, at least with other symbiotes, there's different colored symbiotes. I know there's Scream, who is this yellow female symbiote, which I think you do see that symbiote in the film somewhere. And then there's, I want to say
it's in the it's in the rabbit that gets in. It's in the rabbit that's in the lab.
Oh yeah, that possessed rabbit. That I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Um, I know there's a green symbiote. There's a purple one. Uh, yeah, but why choose a villain who's too similar of a color to Venom, and especially when you have it set at night?
Yeah, 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 and also, I mean, the whole action scene is just not. It doesn't work at all because it's just moving in and out, and it's all tight angles, and so it's hard to see. And on top of that, every time they cut to like Carlton Drake in the suit and Eddie Brock in the suit, both like characters, and they just look like they're just standing, just
Yeah.
casually. So there's no energy, there's no momentum to the scene, and also the actors are not giving any momentum or energy or intensity.
And I gotta say this as well with Tom Hardy is that I do think Tom Hardy gives the most charismatic performance throughout the entire film, but
Oh yeah, he's trying.
I think the biggest missed opportunity is actually Tom Hardy himself. Funnily enough, because I think you never really get a sense that Tom Hardy um, there's never he never lets loose on his own. There's no like evil smiles or manic laughter or anything like that. Like it's all done to with Venom. But whenever you do see bits of Eddie Brock or just bits of Tom Hardy, he just looks bored.
Yeah, he feels restrained by he feels restrained by what's happening in the scene, and 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 I understand the action or the direction of doing that because you want to have like Eddie Brock like the normal dude, but you never show like Venom ever do anything wild and crazy, even when it's just like even when he's controlled by even when he's just controlling Eddie Brock. Like you never like the closest you get to like craziness is when Hardy gets into the lobster tank. That's it.
Well, I mean, I will bring up one of the more memorable sequences from anything Tom Hardy's ever done in his entire career, and it involves the lobster tank. What he does there, where I mean, say what you will about the man, but he is willing to commit to whatever direction he is given to him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and I just groaned during that whole scene. Like I know it's supposed to be funny, but I'm like this is happening way too quick, and a lot is happening in one scene. I mean, you have like this, you have Michelle Williams in there and her boyfriend. They're trying to have lunch, and he's like going insane. Then you have Venom talking, and then you have and then you have like Venom just like starving, wanting like something live to eat. So it's so chaotic. You can't track anything. It's actually a perfect representation of the whole movie. Like the whole movie is chaotic in the way that you can't track anything. You can't track any of the characters' emotions. I mean, there's a whole scene where Venom basically has to tell Eddie, tell her you're sorry for the love of God. Even though he's only known Eddie for like a few hours. If that. So, yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, what did you think of the bit where Venom's going into action, but you hear Tom Hardy's normal voice in the background? What do you think of that?
When is that scene again?
So it's like when Venom's about to go into action at like the space launch, and Venom's talking normally, but you hear Eddie Brock's voice like as if it were like thought bubbles. Like it's the reverse of when Eddie Brock hears Venom in his head. Now you hear Eddie Brock in Venom's head. What do you think of that?
I don't know anymore. I checked out because I was like, I'm seeing Riz Ahmed like fake pretending that he's burning alive, and I'm seeing Venom basically trying to give this half-ass emotional goodbye to Eddie, which we knew is bullshit because come on, really?
Yeah. I have a problem with that bit though, where like Eddie with the whole voiceover thing with Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock is that the point of Venom is that both Brock and the symbiote work together to form one cohesive thought process. So having like Eddie Brock take a back seat while Venom does all the action kind of defeats the purpose of the character to me.
Yeah, it's almost like that movie Upgrade.
Okay.
Did you see that movie?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, this whole movie is very much similar to Upgrade, where, someone is like down on their luck and at their bottom. Although really, Tom Hardy at his bottom here is like pretty luxurious. Like it's pretty, like his apartment's not that bad.
Yeah.
But anywho, so in Upgrade, you just watch Discount Tom Hardy, which is, oh god, now I'm blanking on the actor. You just watch a movie where a guy gets a chip in his spine, and that chip in his spine basically makes him like a kung fu ninja RoboCop kind of thing. And it's really cool, and it's a really good movie. And I wish more people had seen it. It's from the guy who wrote Insidious and Saw. It's a really good movie, and it's very similar to Venom, in a almost like beat for beat. But the difference between this one and between Upgrade and Venom is that one's trying to be a comedy for some reason, and then the other is actually like very thoughtful, very informative, but still somehow wildly entertaining.
Sorry about that. Like I lost connection very briefly. So, but I'm back now. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you hear me say go like oh shit, like that might be just because that was that. So.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just talking about Upgrade, and Upgrade's actually a pretty decent movie. It's very similar. And I actually wished Venom was a little bit more like Upgrade because, and Split, last year Split. Like I wish Venom had taken more from Split and Upgrade.
Yeah.
Because those are actual like good like villain spinoffs.
Mm-hmm.
For other things, and like I think this one should have taken more notes from that, but because because Venom's trying to be a comedy, it doesn't want to do the horror that Split did, and then because Upgrade was a failure, no one wanted to. They definitely did not see Upgrade at all. So, but yeah, my thoughts on Venom are that probably could have been way worse. I don't blame Ruben Fleischer for the movie because he kind of just was a yes man. That's kind of why we're getting a Zombieland 2 finally.
Oh, it's happening?
Yeah, it's starting filming next January.
Oh, wow.
And it comes out a year from now.
Cool.
Yeah, we're getting that finally. And I think him being a part of Venom kind of, was probably like the thing that got that project going. So hey, it got Zombieland 2 going, and the whole cast is returning. So
has Ruben Fleischer made anything good since Zombieland?
No.
That's a shame.
I did not see. Well, I take that back. I have not seen 30 Minutes or Less, and I have not seen. And then I did see Gangster Squad, but that movie's not that good. But yeah, I mean, I don't really care for Venom. I think I wished. I mean, I hope the best for Tom Hardy, like, because he really wanted this to work, and it doesn't. All I was just thinking the entire time is Tom Hardy's basically playing Tom Hardy.
Yeah, basically.
So there's no challenge, and then Michelle Williams gets nothing to do.
Come on, Michelle Williams, you're better than this movie.
I know. Like, if you really wanted to be in a comic book movie, like, do something, that where there's an actual role.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about the post-credit scene, or do we not care?
Yes, we can talk about that.
Okay. It was so predictable, and I just don't care because I think Carnage is so overrated, and you have an actor, Woody Harrelson, who is way better than this material. I hate to see him get involved in this.
It's a favor for a friend. I mean, Ruben. I mean, I'm sure that I mean, my thoughts on it are that hey, Woody Harrelson will be Carnage. At least it's just another good actor gonna get undermined by a material that's just half-assed.
Yeah.
Because that's really what Carnage is gonna be. I mean, there's already. I mean, Avi Arad and Matt Tolmec already talked about what the Carnage movie would be, and it's already going to be a PG-13 movie. So again, you're not learning from anything.
No, I mean, Carnage in particular is a very R-rated kind of character. Like,
yeah.
ugh.
They've already said it's going to be PG-13, so yeah, I'm already just like, man, what a waste, because Woody Harrelson would be awesome in like a DC movie or a Marvel movie. Like he would be like he would, and you're just gonna give him Carnage.
Blah.
You really did a solid for your friend Robert Flesher, Harrelson.
So, overall, I'd say this movie is a turd in the wind. Although, it's more like an awkward fart in an elevator than a turd in the wind, honestly, but I digress.
At least a turd in the wind, you can follow it. You can at least follow like where it's gonna go. Also, turds don't float. They don't like fly like leaves.
Unless it's like a bird turd, but other than that,
turds are heavy.
What are you on about, Venom? What are you talking about?
Did you confuse leaf with turd? Did Eddie have to use a leaf to go take a shit? Like, what are you talking about?
Venom is stupid.
Yep, he is. So, with that, do we have any more to say about Venom?
I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say with it. How about you?
I'm good. I mean, there's not like I walked out of this movie. I thought I knew I wasn't gonna have too much to say on this movie because there's just not that much to say. It's a pretty boring movie. I think I'm glad people do love it because I mean, because no matter what, people really worked hard on this. People did work hard on this movie. So
hell yeah,
good on those people that really like it. I'm not going to bash anyone for hating it.
No, I don't either.
But yeah, it's a fine movie, or it's a bad movie that people enjoy.
Yeah, I think on my website I gave this 1.5 stars out of 5. So not the worst thing I've ever seen, but certainly not a glowing recommendation from me.
It's not in my top 5 worst movies of the year, but I would give it 1 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the worst. There's been much worse, but I was just I was numbed.
Yeah. It's not Suicide Squad. I'll give it that. It's not Suicide Squad.
Well, Suicide Squad. Well, here they didn't take cocaine to make the movie, or they didn't have a cocaine addicted editor do the movie. That's really what Suicide Squad is. It was made by people who were doing cocaine.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
And yeah, okay, I will say this. It's not as horribly edited as Suicide Squad. It's not as boring as Fan Four Stick, and it's not as stylistically interestingly bad as Catwoman. It's just a turd. It's just a piece of shit.
Turd in the wind.
Yep.
And to quote, and I guess if I have any more closing words on Venom, to quote Michelle Williams, "I'm sorry about Venom."
All right, let's wrap this up. So,
Yeah.
Alex, do you have any Twitter handles or places where you want people to follow you?
Well, if you can't get enough of me, I am on the YouTubes. I have a channel. It's under my name, Alex Galucki. That's spelled Galucki. Where if you want to check out videos that I upload like probably once a year, if that, then go ahead. Or if you feel nostalgic, subscribe if you want to. I'm a dying brand, but I have a website where I occasionally post reviews. It's www.galaxyreviews.wordpress.com. I'm on Letterboxd, which is also my name, Alex Galucki. And I'm also on Instagram, where I post on there every once in a while. If you want to follow me there, it's my username is _Galucky time. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at MovieKale. You can also follow the show for updates at the Youth Critic, and then you can also follow the channel that distributes this podcast at KHZ Network. Thanks, everyone. I will have links to all of Alex's stuff in the description below. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back with you very soon for something. I don't know what we'll review next week, but we'll be back with something. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back with you soon.
I work at the Life Foundation, and I need your help. We found something. We call them symbiotes. Carlton Drake believes that the union between human and symbiote is the key to our evolution.
I'm feeling really sick. I'm hearing a voice. Eddie.
You're not real. You were just in my head.
I'm gonna need Mr. Drake's property back.
I don't know. Why would we do that? If you're gonna stay, you will only hurt bad people.
The way I see it, we can do whatever we want. Do we have a deal?
Are you willing to sacrifice the one thing you hold most dear? You should be extremely afraid.
What the hell are you? We are Venom.